Hello, and welcome to the final panel for today, where we will be talking about digital economy. As a reminder, we're running a series of panel discussions as part of the EU Africa The Journey Hackathon, where we have this conference set up where we cover the different topics that the teams are working on as well during this hackathon. So today in this panel, we're going to be talking about digital economy, which is one of the most interesting topics as it talks about digital transformation and everything that's happening and the opportunities that are being created for startups with all these new digital opportunities. And I'm very, very happy to be joined today in the panel by a well-manned panel, where some of the panelists are just joining as well now. And I will give the floor to the panelists to give a little bit of a background and introduction to themselves and tell us about their connection to the topic. So let's start with going to the panel, and I'll give the words to Baraa Elamami. So Baraa, can you hear us? Where are you joining us from? And give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Thanks for having me. I'm Baraa. I graduated from university 3 years ago from École Polytechnique in Paris with a degree in quantitative finance, and I worked in quantitative finance for 3 years. And earlier this year, I decided to go back to university. I'm taking a degree in artificial intelligence, and I'm also a blockchain certified developer from Consensus. And during last year, I worked on several blockchain projects, and today I'd like to talk about how this technology could help the economy of Africa, and particularly the digital economy.
Super. Thank you so much for joining us. Then we have Savio Wambugu. Savio, where are you joining us from?
Thank you very much. I'm joining from my rural area in Kenya. So my name is Savio Wambugu, a software engineer with over 10 years experience, a consultant with the UN in the microeconomic division, and the Secretary General of Association of Innovation Hubs in Kenya, which is a collaboration of over 50 different innovation hubs in Kenya. It's my pleasure to be here.
Super. Thank you so much for joining us. And then we also have Adil, who I think is joining us from close by, from Estonia.
Hi, yes, my name is Ali. I'm in Tallinn, same as you. I am the startup manager for Microsoft. And first of all, thank you for having me on the panel. Secondly, my connection, you asked, is this with the digital economy topic, is this that I have been part of the SME Isle project, which was focused on green technology and e-governance projects to bring in Africa. And I have personally visited Zambia, South Africa, and Namibia regarding these projects. And I had a lot of meetings with the government people there and the officials and very bright-minded people. So
super. Thank you so much for joining us, Ali. Of course, you know, we will get to the role of government in a second, but before we get there, I want to contextualize a little bit the current status we're in when it comes to the digital economy and the transformation we're undergoing. So obviously, you know, we're still coming out of this pandemic, we're still coming out of this crisis, but besides all the negative stuff that the crisis brought, many of the panelists in the previous topics, in the previous panels, also talked about some of the positive impacts that it had, which was kind of forcing a lot of these economies and a lot of people to embrace some of the digital transformation and some of the tools for digital transformation across Africa. So we're coming to a point where the adoption of a lot of these technologies is increasing. Remote work is no longer a thing that happens somewhere else. We have the availability of tools that we couldn't dream of 3, 4, 5 years ago. So more and more people are joining their work, just like we're doing this conference. And there's a wealth of opportunities for startups to take advantage of the tools, to take advantage of these technologies. So what I would like to hear from you, first of all, is where, for startups, where do you see the biggest opportunities coming from, taking advantage of these momentum that we're facing? And Baraa, maybe I will start with you and some of the opportunities you see in this the emerging technologies.
Yeah, sure. If we want to talk about blockchain technology, for example, like the main application that I see today that are working, like our application regarding financial services, for example, banking, insurance, etc. And also we have other application in regards to art. If I go back to financial services, for example, I can give the particular example about Arbol, which is the crop insurance service, on-chain crop insurance services. So basically what they do in Africa, Africa has like the most arable lands in the world, yet most farmers in Africa doesn't have access to insurance product. So what Arbol does is actually, if you are a farmer and you have a phone and internet connection, you can actually go ahead and sign up for an insurance product. And for example, say you want to be protected against rainfall. So you sign up for an insurance product that says if there is more than 5 inches of rain in a 12-hour period, you get an insurance compensation. So you go ahead and you sign up for this product. And once you sign up for it, actually, you sign up for it using blockchain technology. So you sign up for a smart contract, and you don't need any intermediary. So yeah.
And so for these types of products and for these types of access to these types of technologies, specifically when it comes to the agriculture sector, this is perhaps one of the most important sectors for Africa. But if you talk about digital economy or how to transform this sector to take advantage of these tools, what do you see as some of the obstacles? What do you see as some of the difficulties in making sure that these farmers have access to the services you just mentioned? So is there some obstacles for the farmers to take advantage of these tools?
I think the main obstacle is the literacy about the existence of this product. So we kind of need some movement that make farmers in Africa aware about the existence of these products, and as well how they can use them and access them. I think that would be the main obstacle.
Yeah. Savio, how do you see it, given your background and experience? And I mean, you're reaching us now from a rural area in Kenya. How do you see the questions related with the opportunities on the one hand, but the access to the technologies on the other hand?
So thank you very much for that. For me, I guess the opportunities are there in Africa, and basing the opportunities on the emerging technologies. So for the startups and innovators in Africa, most of the opportunities that I know are there and available are in regards to things like like my colleague just talked about the blockchain technologies. But now it's a matter of bringing the technology down to the local language, a language that people can understand. Because in the community that we live, we know about these emerging technologies, but in the way the technologies are impacting the community is a challenge. But now when we talk about blockchain, what comes to the community and the ecosystem at large is Bitcoin. But again, we know and we understand that blockchain is a technology that is being implemented in many other sectors, things like health. Yeah, it's something that we need it today. When you talk about just like the big companies who are moving to things like the metaverse, the AR, the augmented reality and virtual reality, these are things that we have been watching on movies, but they are here with us. So the opportunities that I know are here is mainly utilizing the local technology that is available, but now bringing it down to the community where we live, so that the ordinary citizen of Africa and of the world don't really need to know the kind of technologies being used. But for the technology, the guys who are in the innovation sector is making sure that as much as they don't understand the technology is being used and it's being used efficiently. And we are seeing that in most of the things that we are doing, things like 3D modeling. We are having a lot of youth and startups doing 3D modeling in things that we never imagined. And it's making sure that all these things are very easy. And just as I said, as much as many people might not understand the emerging technologies, the innovators of today should now start implementing it and making it as easy as possible, so that somebody can use a certain product even without knowing the kind of technology it's being implemented. But as an enabler, we have to make sure that it's easy to adopt and it's easy to develop solutions that have problems.
Yeah, I think you bring a very important point here, which is, how to translate all of these emergent technologies into services and language that is accessible to those who need to take advantage of it. Otherwise, you create a bigger digital gap than it already exists, right? So when you talk about pushing the economy towards becoming more digital, there's different aspects of the economy, but how do you ensure that people are not left behind? Because the gap is already there, and if you have certain sectors of the economy moving towards the adoption of these technologies and others are left behind, you run the risk of increasing that gap. Isn't that so, Savio?
Yes, it's true. And yeah, that's true. And just to add something is the internet coverage in Africa has increased tremendously. So through that, it has made the opportunities for the local people and the local innovators and startups. It has opened it to the international market. So what you have said is true. And now through these technologies is what we want to bridge the gap. But internet coverage, and maybe later on when we discuss about policies and many other things, I guess we are doing good.
Yeah. I want to bring Ali to the discussion with a point about, Savio, you were just saying that internet coverage has increased, access to some of these devices has increased. But how do we now make sure that people are not just using their new devices and new access to data just to browse Facebook? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but how do you ensure that these technologies are best put to use to advance the productivity and to advance the state of the economy? So Ali, my question to you is not just the translation of these services to a language that people can understand, but how do you make them realize the potential of the tools and the access to the internet that we're giving them? So what can we do to facilitate some of these communication?
Well, I think that I want to continue with Savio's point.
Yes.
That the gap that we have, we have to work on that, and they are working. Me being going to the Africa, I saw that the innovators and the enablers, they are very keen to be able to bring the technology. But just having internet available to all the people is not the solution, because this will just, as you said, people will just use in Facebook or internet and browsing. What we need would be a proper facilities for, let's say, startups, which they can transform, or how we say, like, not just translate, but into the community and show that what kind of technology is available, how they can use it, and how it can affect the community. So it just, let's say, if we have innovators working on innovative technology, that is just not enough. There
Mm-hmm.
has to be platform to be able to give the awareness of the technology that has been introduced and how it can affect the community and the the whole state and the people and their in regular life. If you take an example of Estonia, it's very simple, a common thing that you can do your things online, digital signatures and so on. But it is successful because the awareness of it is there, because everybody who comes in gets to know those things through the institutions, how you can do those things. So I think there should be institutions that can like uh, get the awareness ratio for the people and the locals about the technology. Whether we are talking about blockchain and so on, they don't understand. One thing is how the technology works, but one thing is how it can affect their
Exactly.
everyday life. So I think that is something that we could work, they could work on. And me being there, what I saw is that people, there is division. There are people who are very smart, who are innovators and enablers, and then there would be people who would not know nothing about technologies in and so on. So I think we have to go on that part. If we take Africa, that get the locals involved and give them the awareness of the technologies that is being used and how it can affect them.
Yeah.
So that is my
And hopefully by that we try to bridge that gap a little bit. Now I want to change gears a little bit because we've talked about blockchain, AI, AR, the metaverse. We talk about a lot of these different technologies, which are obviously global. These technologies are widely available for startups and anyone who wants to take advantage of it. But when we talk about digital economy, especially in the context of Africa, what parts of the economy do we see have the biggest potential? Like if I'm a startup right now and I'm thinking of digitizing parts of the economy, what parts of the economy have the most potential for disruption coming from the technologies being applied? We touched upon agriculture a little bit. I think, Baraa, you were talking about the arts or the creative sector. So I'm just thinking, think of the hackathon participants that want to transform aspects of the economy, because we talk about digital economy if it's one single thing, but there's different aspects to the economy, right? So which sectors are more ripe for disruption and can take advantage of some of these technologies? We talked about the agriculture sector. Are there others out there that can take advantage of it? Baraa, maybe we can start with you again.
Yes, sure. Well, one of the sectors that could be changed by blockchain technology, for example, is the financial services. If we talk just, for example, about remittance, I think there is about $40 billion of remittance that is sent to Africa each year. And if you look at most of remittance services, for example, Western Union or MoneyGram, etc., like the base fee to send the money, it's around $10. So if you live in Europe and you want to send the money to your family and you want to send only $30, you're gonna have to spend $10. And that's a lot in comparison with the amount you send. So one thing that is actually working very well, and I don't know if it's being done in some countries in Africa, but for example, US citizens, when they, Filipino US citizens, when they want to send money to their families in Philippines, they just use Binance, for example, or other blockchains, and they send money directly with very low fees. So that's if you count, for example, that the mean amount that is being sent is around $50 and you pay $10 each time, you're kind of losing 20% of the amount you send that could be used by the families. And by using blockchain tech, you save up on that amount, and in the same time you save up on the, for example, on the time you are going to spend to actually go to the office and send the money, and also the time that is needed for the money to arrive, because
And I think here there's a good point to be made about, just the discussion we were having previously. How do you translate something like Bitcoin and Binance into something that, specific diaspora living in Europe or other places can use to send money abroad, right? So even just building a service on top of the existing technologies, but that is translated in a sense, it communicates specifically for that user need of sending money back home, right? So then without needing to understand Bitcoin, without needing to understand stable coins, they can use this just to transfer funds from their local currency to the home currency. Yeah.
Well, that's actually up to the innovators of
exactly
for that country to make user-friendly products that are easy.
That's
easy
what I'm
to
saying.
use.
Exactly.
Just take the example of Salvador, who are adopting Bitcoin as a national currency. They have Bitcoin ATMs all over the place, and like farmers there can use Bitcoin to pay each other just by scanning a QR code.
Mm-hmm.
So just by building a product like that, something that is easy to use and easy to understand for the local community would be awesome.
All right. So financial services clearly in need of some sort of digitizing across Africa. And, the previous panel, we were talking specifically about financial services, and we did talk about the need for trust to be built into the service. And, as more digital you go, the more need for trust. Savio, what about you? Any thoughts or ideas about other sectors that are just waiting to be disrupted and digitized in Africa?
So in my own opinion is we have to go to we have to align ourselves with the direction that the world is aligning on, and just as per the last UN summit, what was big there is matters climate and renewable energy. So that's something that each and every innovator who is interested in environment, conserving environment, you should be focusing on such things, because when you have the world moving on the same direction, it means there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of investment, and a lot of integration that can happen. But on the other hand, in my own opinion, we don't need to reinvent the wheel on the things that are happening, whether it's agriculture, whether it's fintech, whether it's climate or anything. We need now to start building on the solutions that are already existing. And I'm a fan of, and also a champion on third-party integrations. Just like Bernard said, we have a lot of fintech solutions that are happening, but the challenge comes in on the last mile connection. The last mile connection. I know there are some of the gateways that are trying to bridge the gap. I can see as a developer, I know things like Flutterwave is something that everybody is looking at. People are integrating such things, but we find that these solutions are just implementing until the country level. If you come to Kenya, we have a lot of mobile payment solutions. I don't want to be going each and every time. When I use Kenya as an example, over almost 50%, actually 80% of the citizens here have a mobile payment plan. Yeah, M-Pesa is huge in Kenya. Airtel Money is big in Kenya. So when you have these gateways or mobile payment facilities or fintech solutions, we need to start looking on the last mile connection in regards to that, so that Bernard can send me money and I can automatically receive it from the local payment solution that we are having here. And another thing is the B2B. In Kenya and also in Africa, I know B2C is a challenge because of the transport, the logistics. Yeah? But now there's a big opportunity in regards to B2B solutions. Whether it's payments, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's anything to do with B2B is something that is huge. And also we cannot forget about telemedicine and health. In regards to the COVID-19, we have been taught, we have seen there's a huge market into health. A lot of the solutions that have been developed during the COVID-19, they are new solutions. They are solutions that never existed. They have created jobs that no one ever thought could have happened. So, yeah.
No, a lot of food for thought there, and a lot of opportunities for disruption there. Ali, how do you see it? And coming from the Microsoft program for startups, where do you see the biggest opportunities for disruption in Africa from the economy side?
Well, my overview would be this, that actually every single sector has got the potential in Africa to grow because it's a very early market. It's a very early market, and we can see that if you take from e-commerce to health, as Savio said, to let's say delivery service to fintech or anything you take, there are startups working on it, and they have actually shaken the world. There are few startups in Africa that have come up with the great ideas. Some of them are part of big names are part of a startup, and they started with an idea to the exit strategy and so on. But the answer to the question is the potential is everywhere.
Right.
Now the question is not just about which field, it's now about the approach of like not having just ideas or MVPs and so on, but to make the, like grab the market, like going worldwide, to build partnership with the worldwide partners, to be able to grow, not just focus on Africa only, and to grow to Europe, to Asia, and to these markets all over the world. So the potential is huge there because there's a lot of, if we take, for example, e-commerce, there are a few startups who have the potential to be one of the top leaders of the world with this. But as I said, so having the Microsoft aspect, why somebody asked me that why anybody should partner with Microsoft. If you would actually see that every other person in the world is somehow a customer or a partner of Microsoft. Either they are using Windows, they are using MS Office, they're using Teams, they are using this. So imagine the scale of expansion Microsoft can provide, in which it already is providing, with having partnership with the startups, that they are expanding them with their technical advisors and so on. But yeah, so
no, I think you bring a very important point to this, which is exactly this. Taking advantage of an ever increasing globalized world where the digital barriers are no longer there, or at least they're less there, because as we talked before, there are still some digital barriers when it comes to some transfer of funds. So how do we facilitate the access to these global markets for the teams, for the startups that are coming out of this hackathon and are coming out of Africa? I mean, Ali, you know yourself that Estonia being a very small country, most of the startups that start here, they think global from day one. The internal market is too small. So the same thing is true for potentially for startups coming out of Rwanda, out of Namibia. How do they take advantage of this digitized economy and global economy to access these local markets? And what role do we have to play there? Yeah, you wanted to go ahead, Ali. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will give you an example. I try to simplify things in a way that even a 4-year-old kid can understand. So there's a program from Microsoft. Imagine you are a startup. Let's say you have a startup. Now we have a program with the name Founders Hub. Let's say you do not have an MVP. You just have an idea. You can sign up to that program with LinkedIn, with answering 3 questions, and you are already registered to the program. And after that, the idea behind that Founders Hub funnel is to get that idea to the exit strategy. So let's say if there is a startup in Africa, in Rwanda or in Zambia or anywhere in Africa, they've got an idea and they don't know how to go ahead with that. Microsoft Founders Hub program helps them to get from their idea to the MVP, and then to the go-to-market approach, and then to the co-sell approach and so on. How we can do that? because if you are a very early stage startup, you can build on your own terms. Let's say what exactly technologies you want to use and so on. Keeping in mind that few years back, those technologies were not available to everyone. But now if you have got an access to internet, you can get those technology, uh, let's say the Azure technology, the GitHub and so on. I won't go into details. Then at the same time, you are getting an access to customers database, and then the capital, and then above all that there is technical support, and there is guidance with the infrastructure and so on.
Exactly. So it's again this discussion of access and how the digitized economy, being more global and connected, allows access to these markets. I want to bring into the discussion Thierry Barbaut, who just joined us for the panel. Thierry, we've been having a discussion about some of the emerging technologies and how startups can take advantage of them, and also talking about different aspects of the digital economy and different aspects of the economy that are just ripe for disruption. But before we continue any further, I'd like to welcome you to the panel. Perhaps you can say a few words about yourself and your connection with this topic, and then we can go on. You're on mute. 1 second.
Yes, did you hear me?
Yeah, now it's good.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for the delay. I'm working with the NGO foundation and company who use the technology to grow impact for the startup in Africa since 20 years now. So I was at the beginning of this big revolution of the data, of the mobile, of the fintech, and I'm always try to get a better partnership with the foundation, the company, and the DFI to grow up for this ecosystem and to be able to speak together. That is not so easy, but it's fantastic.
Super. Now that we've covered some of these emerging technologies and we talked about the parts of the economy, the agriculture, the arts, the financial services, and access to global markets, I want to talk a little bit briefly about the role of government. So we talk about digitizing of the economy, and I'd like to get the panel's opinion about the role of governments in ensuring this transformation and in supporting this transformation towards a more digitized economy. So I don't know, Baraa, perhaps we can start with you. Do you have any views on this?
Yes, of course. Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can go ahead. Thierry, you can go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I was thinking it was for me. So it's very hard to give a simple answer of this. The government are so different depending the country, in East, West, and North and South Africa. So the country have not the same economical and cultural ecosystem. So I think we have to focus and on leverage to understand the size of the project which the government can help. You have the smallest project which is called nano project, very small. It means 1,000 or 5,000 euro. You have a micro project, which is around 50,000 euro. You have meso project, the third one, which is less than 1 million of euro. And the macro project is very big one. It needs many years to improve, to be efficient, and it's like 10 or 100,000 euro. I think the government can help some small project to give an answer quickly to what need people, because it's small budget, it goes very quick, and you have a lot of beneficiary with this kind of project. But they have also to try to get fund and partnership to develop the macro project, which is the biggest one. So it needs more skills, more startup, biggest company, and a lot of partnership. So it needs a mix between the kind of partnership, like foundation, company, and I think the GAFA can help also for this kind of project. So I think it depends the region, the culture, the economical ecosystem locally, and it needs a mix of this kind of partnership to have a good solution and to have solution quickly.
Yeah, and I think, Baraa, to bring you into the discussion, I think Thierry was focusing a lot on the funding aspects, but specifically on the technologies we just talked about before, like the blockchain. Is there a role for government in terms of the regulatory frameworks that need to be set for allowing some of these emerging technologies to be adopted? What's your take on this?
Yeah, well, obviously, government has a role to play, at least in facilitating the use of technologies and also the education. But if we view that from the lens of someone who's building a startup, I think we shouldn't rely that much on government and try to be creative and try to get resources and funding from different places, not only relying on government. But to come back to the role of government, for example, we can see that Ethiopia recently made a partnership with Cardano, which is one of the biggest blockchain projects in the space, with the goal of building a blockchain-based universal student credential system. So we can say that the government can play a huge role and have an impact in adopting these technologies and educating the people about them. But in the same time, if you are building a startup or building a project, you should bear in mind that you can't rely on government for everything.
Yeah, and I remember we were even talking about how some of these startups, especially in the emerging technologies, should forge their way ahead without waiting for the legislation to happen and worry about those issues a little bit later, right?
If we touch back on funding, for example, in blockchain, we have this concept called DAOs, which is decentralized autonomous organization. Basically, if you have an idea or a project, you can pitch it or present it and get funding via these organizations, and without relying actually on government or without even relying on VCs. So what I want to say is that nowadays we have means and technology to get funded via non-traditional ways. So it's good to keep that in mind and try everything.
Yeah, and Savio, before we were talking a lot about the access to the technologies and bridging that sort of digital gap when it comes to access to some of these technologies. Do you see a role for governments there as well?
Yeah, so in my opinion, I guess the role of government is supposed to be the bigger role. But I also want to start by saying, if you are an innovator and you're starting to innovate so that the government can help you, it's a high time you stop innovating. But just to contribute, the role of a government in this situation is, first is the policy making, because what I'd like to say is we are not short of innovators. We have a lot of innovators. We have a lot of creative minded, smart people who are doing great things. But now, in terms of the policy making and what is happening in our countries, like just to mention, you'll go to some countries whereby things like flying drones is illegal. But again, you'll also have some other countries who have derived and have come up with good ways of implementing the drone technology. Things like when you go to countries like Malawi, I know they have a drone corridor. You go to some other countries, you can even fly drones in areas that are sensitive. So one is the policy making. So instead of preventing people from coming up with this emerging technology, so that it's cryptocurrency, things like Bitcoin, I guess it's the high time that the governments look for ways to work together in terms of regulation, in terms of creating efficient and affordable ICT infrastructure to make sure that the innovative environment is good and favorable for everyone. And also, the role of government is making sure that they are able to invest in technologies and infrastructure that benefit everybody and also don't have an immediate return on investment. Things like the mobile or the telecommunication infrastructure. I know once if you connect one innovator, you have connected the whole community. So things like the 5G technologies, the 4G technologies, that's where the government should be coming in, because these are things that need a lot of investment, and the return on investment is slow. So, and
infrastructure.
Also, yes. And also things like the rules that they are setting, like the Data Protection Act, so it's mainly coming up with laws that are, one, offering a suitable environment for innovator to innovate. And apart from that, it's also offering a very suitable and recommendable environment for investors, whether they are local or international investors,
Yes.
to come and invest into the local companies. Because when they become very much rigid, investors also shy away from that. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that you brought the infrastructure aspect to it, because of course when we talk about bridging the digital gap, then a lot of it has to do with access to these technologies. So investing in this infrastructure to make sure that everyone has the access, I think makes a lot of sense. Ali, previously you were talking about how government making some of their own processes digital, government making some of their own interactions with citizens more digital, enables the adoption of some of these technologies. You are obviously referring to the example of Estonia, but I'd like to bring that discussion to the context of not just the government, but coming from Microsoft and the work you guys do in the corporate world. We're just coming out of this pandemic, where the adoption of a lot of these remote work policies, enabling the digitizing of a lot of processes in the corporate world, paperless office, these sort of processes. Where do you see the picture now when it comes to things like, contracts being signed digitally in the workspace and between governments and between organizations? Do you see that there's a role there for government to forge ahead?
Thank you. First of all, I would want to connect all the three speakers' points. Thierry said a very important thing, that they're very different countries. They're very different cultures. Some of them economically they are different. Some of them culturally they are different, so on. So it's one aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing, yes, there is a lot of technologies being implemented, and yes, you can now get funded with Baraa's opinion that you can get funded with the technology, not depending on the government. But I believe that government plays a very, very important role in the development of all the technology or the access or everything or funding and so on. So my point is this, that government can make the lives of the innovators easier. For example, the policies that can be implemented for the innovators can be different compared to a normal, let's say, organization. For example, if you take an example of Europe, it doesn't have to be Estonia. It's pretty much easier in the E countries to be able to register a company, form, have sort of like their contract signed and so on. So these kind of things can be done for the innovators, the startups. I can speak for the startup that they should be, let's say, a priority line or like, let's say, like a green signal or a green path made for these startups and innovators to have like a special access to these things, because they are the ones who have the keen or the interest to change the way the people lives are and the technology. So if they can give them, let's say, some sort of priority for registration, companies, access, funds, and so on, that would help them a lot. So they don't have to waste their time on things that they should not be focused on, rather on the innovation and the innovative products and getting connected with the investors. And then come with the fact of the sort of like, as Savio said, that the investors' security, that they should be able to feel secure that they want to invest in the innovators. So if they are backed up by the government, that by institutions, let's say startup ecosystem support, the institution supports, funding and so on, that would help the foreign investors to get with them more deeply and help them with the fundings and so on. So yes, this is my input, that the government plays a very big role as far as the startups are concerned or the innovators are concerned, that the life should be made much more easier and simpler, and they should feel like that they are there to help them grow and make the change, globally, and on a bigger aspect.
Super. Thank you. Thank you for that. As we come to the final section of the panel, I'd like to give the words to the panelists to give some words of encouragement to all the teams that are participating in the hackathon, and especially to those that are working on the digital economy topic. So maybe let's kind of wrap up the discussions we've been having about the opportunities out there, how to take advantage of these opportunities, and making sure that these startups that maybe are taking their first steps towards their entrepreneurial journey at this hackathon, make sure they stay motivated and keep disrupting their economies. So I don't know, Savio, do you want to go first?
Yeah, thank you. I'm a product of hackathons. I guess my first job, I got it from a hackathon. And I believe that it's during the hackathons that great innovations and great ideas are generated and implemented within the 48-hour activity. And I know that the future of the developers and innovators in the room is bright. So for me, I'm very proud. I can motivate them by saying, I'm a product of it, and I know they will develop solutions that are going to impact the community for the next 100, 1,000 years. And what I'd like to say is, innovations are not built on one day, but the ideas, once they are conceived, you just need to start developing and start growing them day by day. So thank you very much. And I'm very happy, and anytime I need them, I'll be able to contribute. And I know for me, why I'm here today is because of those hackathons. Yeah.
Super. Thank you so much for that. Baraa?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'd say be curious, never stop learning, and don't be afraid to fail, because it's a part of the process. And believe in yourself and in your ideas. Be open. That's all. I'll keep going.
Super. And I do think that these hackathons are a great opportunity to fail fast and learn from those experiences. So definitely don't be afraid to do that. Ali?
I really love what Savio said, and it's great to see that he's a product of hackathon. What I would say to the participants is that no idea is a bad idea. Ideas are ones that would actually change this world. So if there would be no ideas, there would be no innovation, there would be no changes. So even if no matter what idea you have to get to the right partners, right people, to be able to get that idea recognized and see what can be done with that. So don't give up on your idea, even if you are not getting any sort of a proper, let's say if you don't win in hackathon, it doesn't matter. Every idea counts. So keep thinking, keep learning, keep coming up with those ideas, and just try to get those ideas to the right people. And that's it.
Super. Thank you so much for that. Thierry?
Yes, I think for the startup, it is necessary to listen, to work them in a group together, because they have the local knowledge and respect of the culture and tradition. It is very important. I think startups have to think about different type of financing between loans, but also donation, grants, and investment. Work with technology to leverage the development theme, water, education, health, agriculture, energy, to find solution to local problem. also the startup need to use what works and can be duplicated in adapting to the local culture and economy, and the importance of connecting all the startups together to find the right solution in all these African countries.
Super. I love how you brought in the element of empathy towards your users and the problems that you're solving, and not necessarily having to reinvent the wheel, but taking advantage of things that are already out there and technology that are already out there to solve local problems. That's very good. And I think this is one of the brilliant aspects of doing a hackathon of this dimension and this size, where we try to connect teams from all over Africa, teams coming from Europe and Africa, where you can take advantage of technologies that are already out there to solve local problems and work with the local communities with lots of empathy. So I'd like to thank all the panelists for joining me today on this panel on digital economy, a very important topic for this hackathon and for this conference as we journey our ways out of this pandemic, and we see the transformation that has occurred in the last couple of years alone by force in some ways, but we see these technologies taking hold. So thank you very much to Savio, Thierry, Ali, and Baraa for joining me. For all the teams that are still working very hard on their prototypes and on their projects, I wish you the best of luck. Keep working on those projects, keep building those prototypes, be ready for the final submission tomorrow. And I hope that when we look at the top 20, we see some really cool ideas coming out of this hackathon. So once again, thank you so much. This is it for the panel conferences today. We will resume the conference program tomorrow with more topics that are relevant for this hackathon. So from my side in Estonia, from Garage 48, that's it. Thank you so much, and best of luck to all the teams.